Good afternoon, everyone. I need to talk to you directly today, not around you, not in the careful language of someone who is worried about saying something that might be more than you are ready to hear, directly to you about what is coming and what it is going to require of you when it arrives, because something is coming that is going to require something of you beyond the receiving of it, beyond the being there when it arrives, something that requires the specific courage of someone who steps forward into something real without the guarantee that it will land the way they are hoping, without the certainty that the step they are taking will find solid ground rather than open air. Welcome. And let me tell you, everything, a call is coming, the kind that changes things, not in the partial or incremental way of a call that moves something a few degrees in a better direction, but in the complete way of a call that arrives as a before and an after. That will be visible when you look back at this period and remember that there was a call, and then there was everything that the call made possible. That was not possible before it. The call is going to leave you speechless. I want to say that plainly. Not as the dramatic language of a reading, but as the accurate description of what is going to happen. In the first moments after you hear what is said, when the words are in the air between you, and the full weight of what they carry arrives before your voice does, and there is a pause, that is filled with the absorbing of something that is larger than you were expecting. Even if you were expecting something significant, this will exceed the expectation in the specific and undeniable way. That makes speech temporarily impossible, while the mind catches up to what the heart already knows. I want to tell you what is behind this call, because the speechless, the depth of it is proportional to what was put into what is now coming through. And I want you to understand what was put in. So the speechless lands correctly as the appropriate response to something significant rather than as an overreaction to something ordinary. The person making this call has been sitting with something for a significant period of time, something they have wanted to say, or something they have wanted to do, or something they have wanted to offer you that has been forming in them in the quiet and private space of their own interior without being brought into the world between you until now. When it is finally ready, not because conditions changed, but because the person changed in the specific and internal way that allows someone to bring what they have been holding into the exposed and vulnerable space of actually saying it. To the person, it is about they are ready now in the way that people are ready when the cost of not saying it has become greater than the cost of saying it. And the call is the result of that arithmetic, arriving at its natural conclusion, which is this. The saying is less costly than the not saying. And so the saying is happening in the form of a call. That is going to leave you speechless. When you receive it, I want to tell you what they are going to say, or the substance of it, because the exact words are theirs. And I cannot give you the exact words, only the substance, which is this. They want you in the specific and committed form of wanting that is different from the casual form or the convenient form, or the form of wanting that is primarily about what the wanted person does for the person doing the wanting, rather than about who that person is. This wanting is about who you are and what you represent to them and what they are willing to do to have you in their life in the full form rather than whatever partial form has been available until now, while what they were holding was still being held, rather than said. Now I want to talk about the leap of faith, because that is the most important part of this message, and the part that requires the most from you of everything I have said so far, ready or not, is in the title for a reason, because what is coming does not wait for readiness. Readiness, in the full and perfect form of someone who has resolved every concern and answered every question and arrived at a place of complete certainty about the right thing to do. And the right way to do it is not available. In situations that require a leap of faith, by definition, because the leap of faith is specifically the movement that happens before certainty is available rather than after. If you wait for certainty, you will be waiting for something that does not precede the leap. It follows it. Certainty about whether something was worth doing comes from having done it and learned from the doing, not from the analysis of whether it should be done before the doing has happened. I want to describe what the leap of faith looks like in this specific situation, because leap of faith is a phrase that can sound larger and more dramatic than the actual action it describes, which is often something quite simple in the moment of doing it, even when the anticipation of it has made it feel enormous. The leap of faith here looks like saying yes to what the call is offering without having every answer about how it will work or what it will produce or whether the ground is solid enough to support the weight of what is being built on top of it. It looks like responding from what is true in you about what you want, rather than from the managed version of your wanting that has kept one hand on the protection while extending the other toward what is being offered. And it looks like trusting, the specific trust of someone who cannot see the full path, but who can see clearly enough to take the next step, which is all the seeing that is required for the step to be taken without the full path being visible in advance. I want to speak to the specific things that are making the leap feel difficult for you, because I think naming them is more useful than simply encouraging you to be brave without acknowledging what the bravery is up against. The first thing is the history of previous leaps that did not land the way you hoped. The specific educational quality of having invested fully in something and found that the investment was not met with equivalent return, or that what seemed like solid ground when the leap was made proved less solid than it appeared under the weight of actual landing. That history is real, and it has produced something in you that protects against the repetition of what it produced before, and the protection is intelligent because it has data to support it. And because the data is accurate, previous leaps produce particular landings, and the protection is trying to prevent those landings from happening again. What the protection cannot know is that this leap is different, not because the hope is different, but because the ground is different, and different ground requires a different calculation than the one the protection was built on from the data of the previous landings. The second thing making the leap feel difficult is the uncertainty of outcomes, the specific discomfort of not knowing what will happen after the leap in any of the dimensions that the after encompasses, and the particular way that not knowing produces caution in someone who has learned through experience that what follows a leap is not always what was hoped for. When the leaping was being considered, the uncertainty is real, and no reading can resolve it into certainty, because certainty is not the available option in any situation where what comes next has not yet happened and depends on choices that have not yet been made by people who are still in the process of making them. What I can offer instead of certainty is this: the specific ground you are leaping toward in this specific situation is more solid than the uncertainty suggests. Not guaranteed solid, not perfectly solid, but real enough and worthy enough to take the step without waiting for the certainty that the nature of leaps makes structurally unavailable before the leaping. And the third thing making the leap feel difficult is the fear of what you might become. If the leap does not land well, the specific vulnerability of someone who has given fully to something and found that the giving changed them in ways that the previous version of themselves did not anticipate, and that required time and effort and care to integrate into who they became after the landing that did not go the way they hoped. That fear is real, and it is one of the most understandable forms of caution that exists in the context of an invitation to invest fully in something that could change you in ways you cannot predict from where you are standing before the investment has happened. What I want to say to that fear is this: you have already been changed by the previous landings in ways that were difficult, and that produced in you a version of yourself that is more complete and more knowing and more capable of navigating whatever this leap produces than the version that existed before those previous landings happened. The changes that the previous leaps produced did not diminish you. They equipped you for this, which is the leap that comes after the ones that taught you what you needed to know to be in this one with the specific wisdom and discernment that this one requires and that the previous ones built in you. Ma, the call is coming, ready or not, and you are more ready than you know. Not because every concern has been resolved, or every question answered, or every fear quieted, but because you have been through enough and learned enough and grown enough to take this step with the full knowledge of what steps can cost and the full knowledge of what they can also produce when the ground is real and the wanting on both sides is genuine. The ground is real. The wanting is genuine. The call is coming. Take the leap when it arrives, not from the managed part of you that is still performing the calculation of risk versus reward on data that is necessarily incomplete because the full data is only available after the decision is made rather than before, from the part of you that already knows what it wants. Before the calculation begins, the part that felt something in the first half second of hearing what the call contains, before the mind arrived to run its processes on what the first half second produced, that first half second is the truth. Take the leap from there. Whew. The call is coming. You are going to be speechless. And when the speechless passes and your voice comes back, say yes. From the part of you that already knows that this is what the preparation was for. All of it. Every difficult season. Every previous landing that taught you something. Every version of yourself that the journey produced on the way to this moment. This moment is what the journey was building toward. And you, Ma, are ready or not. You are ready.